before I got back on Friday, I was able to share with several different groups of people. And I was able to share with a handful of Muslims because of the wheelchair project in Kosovo. I was able to preach in 2 churches of Christ, a Pentecostal church, a Baptist church, or 2 Baptist churches. So I've been able to share with a variety of people, and all those times I worked on one scripture. So if Adam would have been able to go with me this time, or Matt would have been with me, they'd have probably got bored hearing me go through this. But I shared from 1 Corinthians chapter 2. I'm going to start reading at verse 13. These things, 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 13, these things we also speak, not in words, which man's wisdom teaches, but which the Holy Spirit teaches, comparing spiritual things with spiritual. But the natural man doesn't receive the things of the Spirit of God, for they're foolishness to him, nor can he know them, because they're spiritually discerned. But he who is spiritual judges all things, yet he himself is rightly judged by no one. For who has known the mind of the Lord that he may instruct him? And here Paul makes a statement and a promise. But we have the mind of Christ. Now, if you turn over to the Psalms, the songbook. So hold that promise in mind that we have the mind of Christ. And understand that Belarus, Kosovo, are a couple of the poorest countries in at least the second world. The Old Testament songbook, book of Psalms, Psalm chapter 1, blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, or stands in the path of sinners, or sits in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law he meditates day and night. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of the water, brings forth fruit in its season, whose leaf shall not wither. And whatever he does shall prosper. We have the mind of Christ, and whatever a man who delights in the law of the Lord does will prosper. And it is true no matter where you live. It's true no matter who the president is. Now, we did some seminars at rehabilitation facilities in churches, but the message stays the same. Now, according to the World Health Organization, Belarus is in the top 10 countries for alcohol consumption, which causes a variety of social problems. But it's relationships that are going to make the difference. Now, some of those fellas who were at the airport rehab when I did the seminar on boundaries in August were still there in November, have not graduated yet, but they are preparing to graduate. But now they've heard both of these, and by spending that time with them, I was able, you see, to start to develop some of those relationships. Now, Belarus and Kosovo are about 25 hours apart if you could go there by car. I don't suppose it would be impossible these days to go there by car. But some of us can remember when communism started just on the eastern side of Germany. Remember East Germany? Remember there was a wall there? Well, when the wall came down, say, politically somebody pushed to bring those smaller countries that were Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, remember those were all communist countries? Well, somebody pushed to bring those into NATO. And NATO will now defend those countries with bombs. The NATO countries go right up against the Russian border. We wonder why Russia's a little sensitive about the Ukraine. Seems like maybe they weren't the ones pushing this way, that maybe somebody's pushing the other way. But I digress. It is people who are making a difference. And the picture before us there, you know Vera. Vera was here, standing beside me there. And that's Vera's preacher and his wife. And she goes to a Pentecostal church. And when I was there last time, I met the preacher, and I talked at their church service for about, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes or so. And he asked me if, I told him I was planning on coming back doing a seminar in November. And he asked me if I would come there and do that. And so Wednesday, when we landed in Belarus, we went directly to the church house there. Had a meeting, got to meet him and his wife. Had 2 other meetings with him and his wife during that week. It's a relationship. I'm sure that as we continue to meet, there's going to be some differences. There's going to be differences, but there's going to be a relationship established. See, and that relationship is going to be built on the Word of God. Now, Oleg, our interpreter with the MSU fleece on there, on one end, and on the other book end is Dima Iver. Now, we've known Dima now, well, Steve's known him for probably 25 years. I've probably known him for 15 years. He has to drive the van for us. And we pay him to drive the van, but you know what? It goes up when you don't have to drive us anyplace. I had a seminar at the flat where I was living on Friday and Saturday, and Dima came. Obviously, I didn't have to go anywhere, but Dima came to the seminar. Dima's really a part of the team. Now, he still maintains that he is an Orthodox, but every time Steve's there, I'm there, Bill's there, guess what? and becoming less and less orthodox. On Thursday, went back to Dzerzhinsk, and Denya had sent a lift belt to Matt and a board to be able to move this gal. Now, her mom is there in the picture with Vera. Her mom has slipped a disc in her back because she has to physically move this gal from the bed to the chair. And so now mom's having back problems. And so one of the things that Denya and Nikki have done is to teach people there proper lifting techniques. And one of the reasons, see, to bring Vera here was to teach her proper lifting techniques so that she can go back and teach them. And so Matt had the belt. Matt didn't go, but we went to Lima. Matt met me in Lima the Friday before. I took that over there, and that was the result. So it went Red Cross, Direct Connect, Wauseon, Bozeman, Connorsville. See, all those pieces come together, and this gal has been paralyzed in a car accident, and now mom has a neighbor who comes in and helps, but mom, and she has very good care. The place is clean, and she's doing what she can do. So you really want to help somebody like that. You really want to reach out to those people. That same Thursday, Steve had bought a wheelchair for this gal because she's really, really in a bad way, and they live out in a village. And when Vera told us about the situation, Steve was able to get a wheelchair for her, but there was no running water in the house. And of course, there's no man around. Her mom was carrying water to wash her. We were able to secure the funds to put a bathroom in, and that's what that tank is there. It's a hot water tank. And with tears in her eyes, she told me, I never in my life thought that I would have running water in my house. I still can hardly believe that I'm going to have running water. Now, that hadn't been hooked up yet, but the heater was there. The water is to the house, and it was going to be hooked up within a couple of days. Now, this girl can't speak. She had some sort of brain encephalitis or infection or something, and has been left just really, really in sad shape. Now, it's thanks to you, see, that can happen to somebody all the way, halfway across the world. And how blessed I am, I got to go see her, and I got to receive the thanks like I did something. What a blessing that is. Little side note there. It had snowed. As soon as the plane started coming down, I could see that there was snow on the ground. And I thought, oh no, So that was Wednesday. This is Thursday. It had started to thaw a little bit, and You know, Steve had told me, he said the Lord was on to something when he sent people out 2 by 2, because if one falls down, the other one can help him up. I wasn't exactly thinking about that, but I made a wrong step in the mud, and man, I was down. I fell, I mean, I was on my butt. And so they had a hose, a temporary hose, running in the house with a little spigot on the end of the hose, and that's what they kind of washed me off with there. And then she made me sit down on her bed. So I was, you know, they're just great, great, caring people. Tanya knows that she is loved. She has a hard time accepting it yet, but I was able to take a wheelchair to her because Steve brought the wheelchair to my house. I took the wheelchair to Detroit. They put a tag on it. We picked it up in Belarus, and they even had it sitting right beside the plane for me when I got off the plane, like I was going to use it or something. But it was sitting right there on the tarmac, and took it in to the airport, and took it through customs, and took it through passport control, and so I got my baggage and took it out and put it in Dima's van. And so Thursday, I got to take it to Tanya. Now her mom was, for whatever reason, and never could get it out of her for sure, her mom was staying in town, and she was there by herself that day. And there she is, kind of sitting by the door there, you know, sitting on the floor. And you can see how that kind of drops down there, how it's really not very convenient for her to go in and out. I had the seminar on Wednesday, went to see her on Thursday. I think the next Monday, we went back to Dzerzhinsk to do a Bible study for a lady who was in the church, but she is in a wheelchair also. And Vera brought Tanya to that Bible study. Tanya hadn't been to church, hadn't been to a Bible study. She didn't know what a Bible study was. And when she got there, but the other lady in the wheelchair kept talking to her. And by the end of the evening, Tanya had quite a bit. And Dima, the driver, said to me on the way home, he said, "I think Tanya is going to be okay." I said, "I think Tanya's going to be all right." So you keep praying for her. I know Vera's going to continue to work on her, and so hopefully maybe even get her to go to church. So we went to the shelter in the Stankovich shelter that Adam and you guys purchased that refrigerator there in the corner, and Adam helped move it in there in August. Now, they have dubbed this the mic room. I gave that director there a hat, so he you know, he thinks that you know, maybe he can name the room after me now. He said they had their first business. A lady and her child had to come and stay one night. The dad was drunk, and the dad came the next day and wanted to see his wife and child, and he said, I told him, nope, can't do it. So I'm going to make him wait a day. So he made him wait. He said, now, see, that floor is just, I don't know what they call it, some kind of pressed board with lacquer over it. And he said to me, he said, you know, he said, that little baby was on that floor. He said, that floor is kind of cold. I said, okay. I said, how much for a throw rug? Well, he said, I don't know. You know, he kind of stammered. I said, $50 buy you a throw rug? Yeah. He goes, just for the microroom. So he did send me a picture on the telephone of a throw rug. So they've got a big throw rug now in the middle of that. But again, it's the relationship that you enable to happen. See, I don't know where that relationship will go, but I know him and I get on real good, you know. And so, you know, I get to be able to nurture that relationship because you support me doing that. Here's Mama Nina, Olga Goncharenko, and Mama Nina's neighbor, and one of Mama's little girls wearing my hat. But one of Olga's concerns is Mama Nina getting older, how much longer the state will allow her to keep foster children. The neighbor, a lot of people have these greenhouses in Belarus because the ability to grow things, even in the wintertime, is not a hobby. It is a matter of survival. And yet, God's promises are true, that we have the mind of Christ, and that whatever the man who loves the law of the Lord, he will prosper. So, Direct Connect, and your support, able to purchase that greenhouse. And what that greenhouse does it doesn't satisfy her hobby, it feeds her kids. See? She adopted children because Mama Nina went over to her and said, you need to adopt some kids. And so they live like across the road from each other. And so we can support her in being able to provide some physical things for the kids. See? So, you know, Mama Nina has helped. The neighbors helped. We're helped. See, it's a winning situation all the way around. Friday and Saturday, we had a seminar back at the fire. Let me turn some of these lights out. They don't look too sharp. That looks a little muddy. Let's see if that's any better. Oh, maybe a little. There's only some snapshots of the. We had probably 15, 20 people at those meetings Friday night and Saturday morning, and then had lunch and then had another session of the seminars on the mind of Christ. And the fellowship, the conversation, again, the relationships that take place, you know, that endure a long, long time. This lady right down here in the corner that's sitting with the lady in white, I hadn't seen her for about the last 3 trips over there, but I remembered that, probably 10 years ago or more, we were able to buy some furniture for an apartment that the government had helped her secure in a place in town, but she didn't have any money to buy furniture. Now, at the time, she had left the church and went to a Pentecostal church, but she is back at the church working. Was just, and she's just kind of a little fire plug anyway. So it's really neat that I was thinking about how long I had known her and how long, that we had been able to be a part of her life. I always call the non-instrumental church because there's two churches of Christ in Minsk, and there's only 2 million people, so I suppose 2 is enough, don't you? So. I always call the non-instrumental church the Green Church. And by the way, next Lord's Day will be their 25th anniversary. They will have been established there in Minsk for the last 25 years. They're planning a celebration. So I got to preach there Sunday morning. Always a great crew there. They always make me feel so very welcome. Told Mary Jo this morning, I don't know if I mentioned this morning, that this morning was the first Sunday this month that I didn't have to walk a mile in the cold to get to assemble with the saints. Because by the time you get off the public transportation, you got to walk up the street, and of course it's snowing and blowing, and you get there and your mouth is dry, and you just feel like you've been beat up by the time you get there. So, that might have something to do with why, I always encourage people to use their own discretion, but when you kind of see people with that kind of determination, it's going to take more than a little bit of snow for me to say, hey, we're going to cancel. Because the last 2 weeks, if it had been up to me, and my comfort level, well, I'm not sure I would have done all that, but the family homes, orphans who have graduated from the orphanage, now going to school, getting jobs, trying to get on their feet, both boys and girls. She has 3 apartments, 2 for girls, 1 for boys. We had 16 show up for the Monday seminar, and they had to eat. So we had 16 hungry mouths to feed at KFC that day. And I told about Adam getting out of the taxi the last time, and he thought he'd left his billfold in the taxi, and we all panicked. Well, I was getting ready to take him to KFC, and I always keep my money around my neck now since I have a tendency to lose things. And I go to check for my money, and I got no money. 16 kids going to KFC, and my money is back at the apartment. So I had to borrow money to feed the kids, which is pretty much of a trick, because nobody's got an extra $100 to loan, but we were able to make some arrangements, but I had to do some quick thinking there to be able to feed everybody that day. Victor is the what do they call that? The charter member of the other Church of Christ in Minsk. Victor and Galina were instrumental in drawing up all of the legal papers for that church. Now, Victor is quite the carpenter. He is hanging some doors at a children's shelter. The children's shelter had the doors. They didn't have any hardware for the doors, and they didn't have anybody to hang them. So we knew Victor could do the job, and so we purchased, Direct Connect purchased the hardware, and then hired Victor to hang the doors. Adam was at the airport rehab. Like I said, some of these guys were there in August. And I'm telling you, they got the hottest mustard I have ever eaten in my life. I mean, a dab of that made my nose feel like it was going to fall off. You know how like horseradish does your nose? That stuff set you. I mean, it ought to be illegal. I mean, I don't know why they would let former alcoholics have access to that, but it's just nasty stuff. So I was very careful with it this time. But, you know, they were very attentive. And the fellow who runs this place is a little sawed-off guy named Sergey. No. He's another. Is Sasha? Yeah. Yep. And so he had told us, and it had slipped my mind. He had told us he needed some bedding. Remember, he said he needed some bedding. Well, he asked me. He said, "Well, what about this bedding?" So, oh, man. So he needed. I think it was like $500 for. They got the beds, but they didn't have any sheets, pillows, pillowcases. And he said, you know, he said, sometimes when people don't answer me on Facebook, he says, I tell them that I'm going to give their Facebook account to the drug addicts and the drunks that are here. So when we left, I text Steve and asked if we could help with the bedding. Steve had Oleg take the money out of the machine, and so he got his. We were able to help them with some bedding while I was there. So he got his point across. Some years ago, this gal in the pink here, I took some material over to her, and they do crafts and sewing. Now, these three ladies, you know Anna, there on the end, she went with me that night to interpret. But the lady in the pink and the lady in the purple and the lady in the green are not part of the church. But they like to sew. They like to craft. And so, you know, they use that to have fellowship. They're going to some craft competition that they're taking things to. And so, you know, they meet, they have these, you know, they have, through the week, like on Monday or Tuesday night, they get together and sew and do their crafts. I think it's really, really beneficial. So for several years, I've been going to Mogilov. Sergey, Baptist preacher there, invites us to come in and to teach. That's on the right, that's at his home, another place that we're gathered there. And so was able to present the same kind of things there, have a real good conversation. I have a real good relationship with both Sergey and his wife. Now, Mogilov is about 2 hours from Minsk. Sergey came and got me and took me back. Now, he doesn't speak English, but he picked up the interpreter in Minsk. Oleg had to work, and we were able to have conversations back and forth. Now, I left Minsk after 2 weeks and then spent 4 days in Kosovo. And as you know, Steve took about 80 wheelchairs to Kosovo, some of them rocket chairs. We distributed those chairs. I was able to follow up on some of that. This is the doctor in Kosovo that we were able to spend time with. That was kind of the initial contact there in Kosovo. And his daughter and Bob were here several years ago, and they remember very vividly being here at the church, Bob and Fiola, and her dad, Dr. Duraco. And so was able to go and spend some time with them. Concerning the wheelchairs, earlier, Steve talked about a ramp and a little girl that they didn't have any water and didn't have any access in the house. And so Steve had procured some funds for a well. But earlier, knowing a lot of people and having a lot of contacts there in Kosovo, and he's got cousins and uncles, and because they don't go in, they stay in an area. Well, what he was able to do was to put these components together and actually build this family. So instead of a ramp and instead of just a water well, they're going to have a new house. And he did it not by asking people for money. What he did, he said, what I want you to do is pay part of the invoice. So a guy who ran a lumber yard said, well, I'll donate the doors. Somebody else said, I'll donate the windows. Somebody else said, well, I'll donate part of the plumbing. Somebody else said, well, I'll donate part of the labor to the plumbing. And then I'll donate. And so all these components came together. And they told me while I was there, in 2 weeks, that family is going to be able to move into that house. Now, it's all because this guy here, in the middle of this picture, had a vision to help that family. Because that little girl, all she was doing was coming to Handy Cross to get therapy. And earlier, see, her coming to Handy Cross, found out that the family was kind of in dire straits, and was able to ask in the community about the character of the family. I mean, is the guy just lazy or, And so when having somebody trustworthy like that, and his willingness to extend himself, of course, that helps us to know that that's a good place, able to fund some things and to help some people. And I didn't have any pictures to put on here of little ballerina, but her dad, I'm telling you, he followed me out to the car. He about shook my hand off. He was so thankful that they were going to have a house that they could wash this little girl in, and a well that held water, because there was no city water there, that they could pump water into this house. It was unbelievable, both his appreciation and the mom's appreciation. And it was nothing that I did, nothing. But in this, this whole country of Kosovo are cultural Muslims. 2 or 3 times I said something to Earlier, and as a point of reference, I said something about, it'll be after Christmas. Earlier said, now, when's Christmas in the U.S.? I said, well, December 25th. He goes, yeah. He goes, I guess it's the same all over, isn't it? That's not something they're going to sell. It's something that common to us. Well, they're not going to celebrate the birth of Jesus any more than we're likely to celebrate the birth of Muhammad. You know what I mean? But they don't go to the mosque. It's just a cultural thing with them. So they don't believe anything. They're wide open. But guess what? He's not doing this because he believes in Muhammad, or he's not doing it because he believes in Jesus. He's doing it because he has a good heart. You know what? That's a good step. Somebody who has a good heart and wants to know the truth. That's somebody I want to sit down and have a conversation with. So you know what I did? 3 of the 4 nights that I was in Kosovo, I was in his home. Took him out to dinner. Got to know his kids. Got to know his wife. That relationship. I'm thankful that you not only support but encourage me in doing this. You know, I couldn't do it without Mary Jo's encouragement from home. I couldn't do it without your encouragement. I couldn't do it if I didn't know that things were just, Elier sent me a note today and said, did you find everything good when you got back home? And I wrote him, said, I found everything better than when I left. You know, that means everything. So thank you for what you do. I never ever forget that this is about what you do. This is about your prayers, and this is about your support, and this is about your encouragement. This is about what we all get to do together. And I'm so blessed often to be able to be the tip of the spear. Because I get to see the people. I get to have the relationships. I get to, and I know I'll never be able to communicate the depth of that. But I also know that as much as I'd like to communicate the depth of that, me. And I'm appreciative of your role in changing me. So thanks for all you do. Some of you sent money to Vera. She was very appreciative to buy groceries. Some of you sent money to Sasha Shaninsky for the soup kitchen. I didn't even get to see Sasha, but he did send me a real nice text thanking me and the contributors here for the money. So just thank you all the way around. I just am really grateful and thankful. They asked when I was going to go back. I said, well, perhaps when I have a reason. So we will see, what the future holds. I'm going to go talk to Steve in the morning. I appreciate the things that Steve does. And so, but again, I appreciate all that you do. So we'll have a prayer and take up an offering, and we'll go have some. Is there pizza left? We'll have pizza. So let's stand up. That way you can reach down in your pocket better. All the way down. Lord God in heaven, I thank you so much for this day.